Chuck. Good to see you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, it was nice of Jim to introduce us, so I really do appreciate that. Hey, as I mentioned on the phone, I see us covered basically three areas today. First, I want to tell you a little bit about LMI Chicago, or LMI and what we do. Second, and more importantly, is ask you some questions about you and your organization. And from that information, see if it makes sense for us to do some work together. Does that sound reasonable?
Sure.
Great. And by the way, I have a few visuals for reference. I think you can see those on the screen already. Do you mind if I share the screen with you as we go through this?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. I know some people are more visual. I know I am. So I think maybe the new Zoom is we're actually sharing a little bit more so you could actually see. So
لو تلاحظوا انه قسم المقابلة الى 3 اقسام. القسم الاول introduction عن LMI، من نحن، وش بنسوي، وش دورنا. القسم الثاني هو الحوار مع العميل ومحاولة معرفة العامل الأعظم للشراء. الجزء الثالث هو الوصول إلى قاعدة مشتركة للتعاون بيننا. بس الذي أود أن ألفت انتباهكم له هنا إنه سؤاله هل تعرف LMI؟ قالت له لا. دليل على إنه يعني المقابلة البيعية الناجحة مو يشترط إنه العميل يكون يعرف عن LMI أو سمع عنها أو إنها ماركة أو إنها صرفت على الدعاية والإعلان. إحنا هنا بنقدم خدمات بنشرح لك إيش هذه الخدمة ونحن مسؤولين عنها.
By the way, before I get started, are you familiar with Leadership Management International?
Not really, no.
Okay, so
other than looking you up on the web, so.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that when we have our first meeting. So just so you know, Leadership Management International has been around since 1966. It was founded by Paul J. Meyer. We're a professional and a performance improvement company. And we specialize in personal leadership and organizational development. We have about 100 affiliate offices here in the United States, but we also partner with businesses in over 80 countries and have materials produced in about 27 languages. Now, specifically, so we focus on productivity improvement, leadership development, and organizational development. And now we tend to work with executives, managers, and supervisors. That's really our sweet spot. And when you think about how we work, and we work to improve that personal productivity so that the results could flow directly to your bottom line. All right. And we serve the majority of our clients with what we call in-house programs, where we work with your people on your premise toward your specific goals. But for today's purposes, I don't necessarily want to talk about an in-house. I'd rather talk about our open enrollment classes.
Okay.
Because in fact, what I'd like to do is invite you or somebody that you recommend, and we'll talk about that, to participate in our process firsthand in one of these open enrollment programs. Now, this open enrollment, it's a group conference made up of people from several different organizations. And as you can see on the slide, it really covers three things. First, it helps you experience firsthand how our process works and how your organization will benefit, and determine if it makes sense and you could get the return on investment you're expecting. The second is to identify specific and measurable goals for your organization. And then the final is decide, based upon that, who should be involved in an in-house program to help the company attain its goals after you've experienced the results of the program. So let me pause there and say, do you have any specific questions based on what I've said so far?
No, I mean, it sounds pretty much like most training presentations. So I'm going to be a little skeptical and say, okay, great. That's what I'd expect.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. I know you, based on what I've read about you and what Jim told me, you've had a bit of experience in this industry. So I'm glad we're talking today. So, so that's really it. So when you think about it, we work with companies that believe in developing their own people. It's going to lead to increased performance, productivity and measurable results. And just look on the screen right here. I know you're local. Here's a few companies that you may recognize that currently use our services.
Okay.
All right. All right. Let's go back up to that for a second. So that's a little bit about who we are and what we do. If it's okay with you, I'd like to shift gears now. Let's talk a little bit more about your company, how you're structured, and whether it makes sense to work together. And do you mind if I take notes as I go through this?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. In doing some research, please, let's validate this first, okay? You've got approximately 200 employees at ABC Company, your company. And you are the HR director and you're responsible for employee development. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. 3 locations?
Right. Predominantly Aurora and 2 suburbs of Milwaukee with smaller, field engineers and a training group, a customer training group. So
Right.
not dissimilar from some of the companies that you have listed here.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. And that ends up being, we tend to work with medium-sized privately held companies, not exclusively, but we tend to work with companies sized anywhere from 200 up to basically 500. We've done smaller, we've done larger, but that really tends to be the area where we get most of our traction in the work that we do. So that's why I was intrigued when Jim gave me your name.
Okay.
And so, should a decision be made regarding our services, is this something that a decision you could make?
I have authority to basically, sign up, but I would not do that without a discussion with my president.
Okay. Fine. And let me ask you, what percentage of your training do you outsource versus handle inside?
Well, it depends on the training. So, there are certainly on the job training or anything, say, environmental or, say, regulatory, we handle here because we have people in charge of doing that, new employee training, et cetera. Something specific for, say, developing a leader would be outside.
Okay. So a company like ours to assist with that.
Right.
While we're on that topic, are you currently working with any other companies in the area of leadership or leadership development or productivity improvement for your employees and leaders?
No, we're not. We really have some financial, I won't say constraints, but everybody's being fairly cautious about spending this time of year.
Yep. I thank you for acknowledging that. Yes, I understand, especially coming out of COVID like we are. We've got a lot of folks who some are going gangbusters and others are a bit hesitant. So thank you for letting me know where you are. Great. Is there anything else that you want to tell me about your organization or about some of the specific needs that you might have at this point that would be helpful for me?
I don't think so. One question might be, what is your typical, student type?
Student what?
Student type. Like what type of, you said supervisors, but I mean, really what kind of people are those? Supervisors, managers, executives,
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I will tell you that it tends to be across the board. We tend to work a lot with manufacturers, Sue. Okay. Not exclusively, but I think our niche recently has been working with a lot of manufacturers because there's a great need for it. And I know that's what you're manufacturers as well.
Right.
But it's not exclusive to that. And dependent upon whether it's an executive, manager, or supervisor, really depends upon the needs within the company. We've got some companies who do their executive team. We've got some companies who work at all levels, and we've got some that want to start just with a supervisor. So really the question is, it's going to be kind of, where is the greatest need that you see within your organization?
Okay, so I understand that, but I'm still having a little trouble trying to figure out what it is that they're going to get from it so that I know whether or not I have someone who needs that.
Great. Okay, that's a fair question. And it's a great segue. So if you don't mind, I'm going to actually change slides here. So,
okay.
You'd think that we planned this, but actually we didn't. So pretty good. Appreciate that, Sue.
Okay.
So if you look at it, typically when I sit down with somebody like you who's responsible for these decisions, I'm going to say to you, Sue, really, we get results in these 6 areas. Increasing productivity. And by the way, I'm looking over here because I've got a slide over here. Your slide is over there as well. Increased productivity, enhanced communication, focusing on priorities, developing key people, leadership development. Those developing key people, improve teamwork, I'm going to put under like leadership development and working with productivity of others as well. Mm-hmm. So if looking at those areas, is there one that sticks out more so than the other?
Well, I'm thinking of one person in general who's, very smart, really good, but just really is way too involved in everything. And we would really like him to make more progress on, the goals. He seems to get into the detail and micromanage everything a little bit too much. And I really think in order for him to, help the company more, be able to be at a higher level of either strategically or just really making sure that the goals get done, but without going to every single meeting himself.
For reference, what's this person's first name? So I could.
John, actually.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's a great scenario. That's a great need. And I'm glad you brought that up. I'm just curious what those things, obviously, why did you think of John in the first place? Was it because of those items or was there something else?
Well, we've just been, my president and I have been saying how, we're getting super busy, like a lot of, and it's hard to find people. And so there's other issues, as you've probably heard, cost of materials going up, dealing with suppliers, all of those types of things. And so there's some high level problems that key people need to be working on. And we still have to get product out the door, every week. So it just seems like there's way too much for this individual to keep tabs on, and we're trying to figure out a way to help him, really make the most impact.
Great. So when I started out today, I wasn't 100% sure who I was going to ask to participate in our open enrollment class, because that is the best way to test this process out to ensure it's a good fit for our ABC company. Let me just pause for a second and step back. It's not uncommon for us to ask a person in your position who is responsible for these decisions to go through our program first. So if I had to say, thinking about yourself and getting to understand how the program could benefit a company versus John, who would you think would be the best candidate to be able to make that choice and decision?
Well, that's kind of tough, because I don't recommend training unless I really know the program. But, I don't know that I need this type of training anymore.
Okay. And you say that because?
Because I've done a lot of it already. Center for Creative Leadership. I mean, degrees, that type of thing. So again, although I looked at it, this isn't a short-term thing. So it seems like if I were to do this, it would be months before we could get somebody else into the class. So yeah, I'm a little bit in a quandary.
Okay, and thank you for that. We like to ask the question because we've found in working with other companies, the more you, who is making the decision, the person making the decision, is engaged in the process, the more you could determine if it's going to be a good fit for your organization going forward. So I acknowledge that. Now, let me just ask you this. One thing I would request is, does John report to you, or how would you know about John's progress? Let's just say we put John in this class. How would you be, what would your role be in working with John as he went through this class?
Well, I guess that's two questions. Right now, we're peers on the management team. So that's how I know him. That's how I am very familiar with him. We've worked together for, over 10 years type of thing.
And who does John report to, Sue?
The president.
Okay.
We both report to the president, so we're peers.
Okay. Great. Okay, so one of the things I'm thinking of, and I'd like to share with you a little bit more about how our process works, and that might help you with some of the decisions. But ultimately, what I'm thinking about is, now one other quick question. John does have direct reports, correct?
He has direct reports. We have direct reports.
Okay.
So, and Jeff, I didn't quite get this from the website, but how long is the program and how much does it cost?
Yeah, great question. If you don't mind, I'm going to actually show you how the process works. If I could do that, I think that might be the next slide here.
Okay.
So you're absolutely right. Think about the difference between LMI and
في شريحة واحدة استطاعت أنها تبين ما تتميز به LMI. The LMI difference يعني competitive advantages أو المميزات التنافسية. الأول إنه إحنا multi sensory learning، يعني في أكثر من حاسة بتشترك في اكتساب المعلومة والاحتفاظ بها. بنتبع أسلوب السبيس ريبيتيشن اللي بيرسخ المعلومة ويركز على تغيير السلوك. الراحة والمرونة في عقد البرنامج بدون ما يترك الإنسان عمله وبدون ما يحتاج إلى بديل، وفي وقت مناسب كأنه راح إلى ميتينج. النقطة الخامسة الجروب داينامكس، إنه القادة النظراء في مستوى واحد بيتقابلوا بيتحاوروا بينقلوا الخبرات في مجالهم.
Maybe other training that you've been through, Sue, is that LMI is really about developing, not necessarily about training. Okay. And you actually look at that first line on this slide, developing effective leaders and improving productivity is a process. So we are really looking to change habits and behaviors in order to get different results. All right. And how do we do that? This is the LMI difference. It is a multi-week program. And in this case, what I'd be looking for would probably be every other week in our class, on our what we call our effective personal productivity class. It would be every other week for 14 weeks. So 7 sessions over 14 weeks. Okay. And this is the process that John would go through as he was involved in this. First, what everything LMI does is through multisensory learning. They're going to get printed material, recorded lessons, written plans. So they're going to be using 3 of their 5 senses as they go through this, because we know that the more senses you engage in learning, the more probable the retention. Second is everything we do is we work through spaced repetition. Adults learn just like children do through spaced repetition. So our program is designed in such a way that John will be working on this multiple times throughout the week as he's working on his assignment. And the third is convenient. We recognize people learn differently, Sue. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And because our participants are going to be reading and listening and doing their work between classes, it needs to be convenient. So they could take it with them, they could learn as they're reading, listening, but everything that we do is also application-based, Sue, toward your company and your goals. The fourth circle there is the group dynamic circle. And that really is when we come together as a team on that every other week. And by the way, there'll be anywhere from 6 to 12 people in John's class, okay, in this open enrollment. No more than 12, no fewer than 6. We found that's the best idea because when that class is happening, it's a great opportunity for folks to share best ideas, best practices. And think about it this way. We're facilitating this class. We're not teaching it. They've done the learning. Now we're talking about how they've applied best ideas. And then finally, in everything that we do, Sue, we measure results. So if I go back to your first statement, one of the things you mentioned was, there's financial constraints this time of year. We understand that unless you can get that return on investment, there's a pretty good chance you probably won't sign up for this. And so we will also guarantee results. I just want to share with you as well. So we agree upon a goal. We can guarantee results based on that goal for you to get the return that you're looking to get. Okay. So how do we do this? This is basically the flow. That's the difference was how we do it. This is actually the process itself. We're gonna have a kickoff meeting where we go over the concepts. We'll be establishing the goals, and those will be signed off by the president and possibly you. We'll talk about that. They'll go through the lesson.
هنا لو تلاحظ في شريحة مهمة جدا هتيجي حول التراينجل كوميونيكيشن أو مثلث التواصل اللي يربط بين LMI والشخص المشارك والرئيس المباشر، وبالتالي تكون الجهة دائما مشتركة أو involved في كل مراحل التطوير والإضافات والتغيير الإيجابي في واقع العمل.
They'll have a graduation and then we'll do a reinforcement. And you see one of the final things that I'd like to talk about is this triangle communication at the bottom. Mm-hmm. In order for us to ensure success, it's so imperative that we have a three-way communication between the facilitator, who's LMI, the participant, and the mentor. And in this case, I would like to suggest that either you or the president acts as John's mentor as we go through this, because that will really give you a great insight to how it works and the results that you're going to get. Not only will John get, but others within your organization. Because I know you like to say you kind of like to try before you buy, and that's exactly the concept here. We want you to basically try before you buy.
So is this class during the day? Is it at some location? What's the logistics of
Yeah,
it?
so this next class starts on August 4th, and it's going to be held, it's every other week, and it's going to be held online remotely, because we know people right now are actually appreciating that. And when you're testing it, again, if you don't have to drive, it's going to be better. So, and it's going to be held at 9 o'clock, 9 to 11 that's Wednesday, every Wednesday morning. And so what I'd like to do is, when we're done here today, I'd like to send over an enrollment form. And you did ask the cost. The cost to do this actual program is $2,500 for John, and that will include all of his classes, the materials, the facilitated sessions. And that's, like I said, over 14 weeks, 7 sessions. And so the only thing you and I would have to work on is, what would be the goal that you would like to see John attain by participating? This isn't just to try the class to see if it's something that could, would work. We really want to see what are the results John needs to get. And based on those results, it's going to share with you how to proceed with us going forward.
Okay.
So based on what we've talked about, is this something that you'd like to sign John up to do?
Well, It sounds like it. It doesn't sound too arduous, especially if we're going to get results. But I still need to have a conversation because now not only are we talking about the $2,500, we're talking about John being away from work for that amount of time, whether or not he can do that, who's going to cover for him, etc. So again, I don't have a lot of negative feelings about that. I think they can be resolved. I just can't give you an answer today.
I'm sorry, I missed that last one. Just thinking what?
Just can't give you a yes right now.
Okay. Well, what else? I understand you need to have a couple conversations, but What other information do you need to help you make this decision?
I mean, do you have any, testimonials or ROI type of data? Maybe even someone I could talk to that could, give me more of a comfortable feeling that they felt it was worth the investment?
All of those.
Okay, great.
Which, I mean, how many different names do you want? I'm happy to give them. And is there a certain person or title you'd like to talk to? You tell me. I mean, I'm happy to.
Ideally, I would like to talk to another HR person.
Great.
Because we have maybe one that's been through the program or is currently, having people go through it, because we'll have the same kind of objections. And, if that person says, yes, it's costly, but I, feel it's worth it, then, that's good data for me to take forward when I have the conversation.
I know exactly who I could give to you. We've got a company that's manufacturing, and she's in your position as director of HR, and she was responsible for bringing us in. She brought us in at an executive level, and we've worked with their executive team over multiple programs, and they have since then had different levels of people throughout their organization take it, so she could, probably answer all your questions also about the return.
Okay.
Because of the number of people that they've done. They wouldn't do it if they couldn't get that, I guess. And that's really kind of the one thing, Sue, that I will be happy to give you that information. We're going to ask for one thing in return.
Okay.
Is that you think about, if John's going to be working in this program, is there one goal or business deliverable that can have an impact on your company that if he focused on over the next 14 weeks could make a sizable impact to your organization? Do you think you could come up with something that would fit that criteria?
I'm sure we could come up with, we'll pull something from his MBOs that he's working on right now. Great.
And if we can, and we agree upon that's a reasonable thing to do in time frame, and he could achieve that goal, would it be worth that investment of $2,500?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worthwhile, but I have to sell it.
Okay. And remember, Sue, the point of selling this whole thing is it's really it's a trial. I understand you're putting out some money to put this, but the best way to see if it's worth it is to participate in it once we know what the goal is. And this will probably be a good time to tell you about the guarantee.
Oh, okay.
For our first-time clients, for folks who have never used us before, we recognize that you are, stepping out and trying something new. And to minimize any risk, what we've done is saying, listen, once we define that goal and we get halfway through our program, if John is working and doing the work, but he is not getting he's not gaining the results that he thought he was going to get by putting in the work, just give us back the program. We'll give you back your money. No questions asked. So there's no risk for you as an organization. But for me to try to explain everything to you, how it works, I've just learned over the years, the best way is to actually experience it first and minimize the risk for you. Okay. So does that sound reasonable?
That's reasonable too. Sure.
Okay. All right, so Sue, I will go ahead and get you the information that you've requested, a little bit about the, I'll give you the schedule, I'll give you the enrollment form, I'll give you the name of a person who's used us, and I'll give you a couple testimonials as well. And Sue, what would be a good time for us to follow up? Because with that class starting on the 4th, we need to have everybody signed up by July 8th. So knowing that, what would be a good time for you and I to talk?
Well, it depends on how quickly I can talk to whoever this, referral person is.
Okay. I will get you that information today.
Okay.
I'm sure that that she would love to talk to you. So I will get that information to you today.
Okay.
So assuming you can talk to her today, when we do it, or by tomorrow anyways, can we talk, let's see, today is Wednesday. Would we be able to talk on either Friday or Monday, 25th or the 28th?
I am thinking if I can talk to her by I still have to talk to my president.
Right.
And get a decision. So I'm thinking more like next week, Tuesday or Wednesday.
29th or 30th. Okay. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead. I know we're both busy. Let's go ahead and put something on the calendar. Do you have your calendar in front of you?
Sure.
Okay. How does the 30th at 10 a.m. or 2:30 p.m. work for you?
That works.
Either one?
Sure.
Okay, I'll go ahead and send you a meeting invite for that, just so we could block that on the calendar, and that shouldn't take too long. And if you've made the decision before then, all you have to do is submit the enrollment form as well. So that would be great. Hey, thank you so much for your time. Before I go, though, I have to ask this question: is that you can imagine, just like Jim introduced me to you, our business is virtually all through referrals. I know you haven't used us yet, and I'm not asking you for to referral to testify how well we've done, but I know you're involved, as a director of HR. I'm assuming you're involved in a lot of different associations and organizations. Who else do you know who is maybe dealing with some of the same issues you are that might be interested in having a conversation with me? Is there somebody else that comes to mind right now?
I don't have anybody right now. I have a couple of people that I talk to from time to time. I don't know where they are in the training phase, but I could reach out and see.
Is it something that you, would mind sharing the names and just, I could reach out to them and just say that we've talked. Is that acceptable to you?
I typically don't like to do that, but I tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. Let me make a couple phone calls today, and if it's okay, I will send you an email by the end of the week. Either here's a couple names, or sorry, I couldn't go through with it.
That's to help you with that. Would it be beneficial if I just gave you a quick paragraph intro from me that you could forward on to them? Would that be beneficial?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine too.
All right. Great. I'm just giving myself a couple more to-dos here. So that's fine.
Okay.
So, hey, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to meet you, and do look forward to talking to you next week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.